This watch caught my attention back in 2017 when I read an article praising its aesthetics but discussed that the mechanics were not of high quality. And I think that statement still holds true. Fast forward some years now owning these 3 colorways, which begs the question why I needed all 3, which I have given up answering, but nonetheless I have them. The name Marlin sounds extremely fancy but has a non-fancy translation. Marlin is roughly translated as water resistance. What that hold of true value back then is hard for me to say. Today is just a legacy play, and do not under any circumstances get your Marlin near any type of water. The specs are fairly simple. The dial comes in at around 34mm with a thickness of 10mm including the glass. Luck to luck around 42mm, which seems to be a bit much for the size of the watch, but contrary gives the watch an added depth. It has a luck width of 18mm. These dials are amazing and generously giving you a beautiful nostalgic experience. The Sunray dial has a creamy champagne hue when the light catches it, exactly how a dress watch should behave. The gold silhouette has a silver dial with gold applied numerals, with a gold reflected sentiment on the dial, giving you an illusion of gold tint to the dial. The silver is all silver, which sometimes can make the watch a bit illegible, but I do like the mid-century minimalistic aesthetic from it. My favorite dial of the bunch is the original Marlin. There's something about the coffee creamy faded extremely understated look. I've not seen any watch with that type of dial before, and I think it's quite unique. Acrylic was massively utilized in the vintage era of watches, but now it's a conscious choice to purposely create a vibe and aesthetic, or it could just be a cost-saving measure. They have clearly tried to replicate the beauty of acrylic, the warmth, lightness, softness, the allure as opposed to the colder sapphire. At the end of the day, sapphire would not have been used, just on the basis of the cost alone. Something I have noticed on acrylic crystals as opposed to sapphire is its legibility. There's no smudge gathering on acrylic and it's clear as day, but again, scratches will be prevalent. These watches would not work as heirlooms, mainly because of the sheer back quality of the movement. Everything else about the watch screams vintage, nostalgia, and memories. Usually those are the requirements for a watch to be considered a watch to be passed down to the next generation. But the modified ST6 is not a great movement. It's a hand-wound movement which also supports hacking, which is quite surprisingly, to be honest with you. It's a modified ST6 from Seagull. I think there's 2 shortcomings. One is the movement. The second one is the glass. The acrylic glass do scratch fairly easily, but it can be buffed out with some polywash if needed. The original is my preferred choice. My copy does not work, so I've been wearing the gold version a lot more. I must say that version has been growing on me a lot. I still choose the original Marlin as first, then the gold, and then the silver. If you already know which color you seek, then it's an easy choice, but if not, then you have my priorities. So there is other color options as well, which I don't own. There is a clean black version, and there is a green version as well, which I believe to be a limited edition. I think the all black dial with silver applied indices could set itself up for being the most sleek and modern of the bunch. One thing I want to touch upon is the stigma around smaller watches. If you haven't owned a vintage watch previously and you worry whether this watch would change your manhood, I would say it's far from it. This obsessive, strenuous thought process brings a lot of agony, and to contrary belief, wearing watches like these just show how comfortable you are in your own skin, and how much of a renaissance man you perceive yourself as. You might also worry about people commenting on the smaller watch with a condescending tone. Just remember, they probably have never worn a watch in their life, and if they have, it's probably been the usual fashion brand, and they're just projecting their own insecurities and dumbness on you. Don't think about any of that, just wear the watch. Honestly, I wish Timex would go all out and make a higher quality Marlin so it potentially could be an heirloom. Something that lasts a lifetime and more. I think they should take the original Marlin and make it a 36mm to gain a neoclassical proportion. They should use higher quality steel, maybe even brush to give it a mid-century German Bauhaus aesthetic, and even be blasphemous and install a dome sapphire instead of acrylic. As far as movement goes, either an ETA 2824 or a cheaper movement like the Miota 1915. The cost of this would bring the price significantly higher, but I think a lot of people would love this design in a better package. I think that should be the move and focus from Timex. I think this is a great first dress watch. I would even call it an ideal first dress watch. The dial truly pushes you in and gives you an amazing experience, until the movement dies on you, of course. The first Marlin I bought was secondhand, no scratches, nothing terrible, so I don't know how the other person handled the winding, but it stopped working after 2 weeks of me owning it. At that point, it was 4 years old, so the silver and gold I bought brand new, so we will see with time how well it holds up. But again, if you can find it around $140, I think it's a wash, at least for the beauty and the size, to experience whether this is something you can align yourself with or not. I hope this helped you closer to a decision, and I'm glad you stuck with me for so long. Thank you.